Oh, can you believe the nerve of it all? The first-class cabin of Skylux Airlines Flight 217 buzzed with tension, so thick you could slice it with a butter knife. Jessica, the flight attendant, stood over Maya Richardson with a smile, so forced it could have cracked porcelain. "Ma'am, I'm terribly sorry, but there's been a mix-up. We need you to move to accommodate one of our VIP passengers." Her voice dripped with that overly polite tone that barely masked her haughty edge. "This seat, too, is reserved exclusively for our Platinum members, and, well, you don't qualify to sit here." Behind her, Karen Whitfield, decked out in a sharp gray suit, her expensive watch glinting like a beacon under the cabin's soft lights, tapped her manicured nails impatiently on the little table in front of seat 2A. Her eyes flicked toward Maya with the kind of irritation you'd give a fly buzzing too close to your champagne. For Karen, seat 2, it wasn't just a plush leather throne in first class. It was her kingdom, her birthright. "I always sit here. It's practically my seat," she huffed, loud enough for every passenger within earshot to catch the arrogance lacing her words. Oh, the audacity! As if the seat had her name embroidered on it. Her disdain hung in the air like cheap perfume, and the nearby passengers couldn't help but crane their necks, sensing drama brewing. Maya, though, cool as a cucumber. She looked up from her seat, her dark eyes flashing with a spark of surprise but not a hint of fear. She'd booked this seat weeks ago, paid in full, arrived on time. Heck, she was a Platinum member, Skylux's top-tier loyalty status. Yet, here she was being sized up and dismissed, all because of her appearance and the rich, warm tone of her skin. Did they really think she'd just shrug and shuffle to the back? Not today. With a calm that could silence a storm, Maya reached into her sleek leather wallet, pulled out her Platinum membership card, and held it out like a shield. "I'm a Platinum member," she said firmly, her voice steady as granite. "This seat is assigned to me. I'm not moving." Jessica's smile stiffened, like she'd just bitten into a lemon. A flicker of shock danced across her face before she slipped back into that practiced, icy professionalism. "I understand, ma'am," she said, her tone now carrying a sharp edge. "But this seat is usually given to an even more distinguished guest." Her eyes darted toward Karen, who stood there like she owned the entire plane. "One of our frequent Platinum flyers," Jessica added, the implication as clear as a neon sign. Maya, in their eyes, didn't belong, didn't fit the mold. Can you imagine the gall? The cabin was starting to hum with whispers now. Passengers nearby slid their phones out, some discreetly, others not so much. Curious glances turned into indignant stares. A few murmurs rippled through the rows. Asterisk, did she just say that? Asterisk, as the scene unfolded. Little did Jessica, Karen, or anyone else on that flight know, this small act of prejudice was about to ignite a firestorm that would shake Skylux Airlines to its core. Oh, they had no idea. The woman they were so casually dismissing was no ordinary passenger. Maya Richardson held the power to turn their world upside down. Earlier that morning, the soft amber glow of sunrise had poured through the towering windows of Los Angeles International Airport's first-class lounge, casting a warm light on Maya as she strode in with her signature confidence. At 32, she was a force of nature, CEO and founder of Right Tech Solutions, a billion-dollar AI company revolutionizing bias mitigation in customer service. Her curls were pinned neatly, her eyes sparkled with purpose, and her posture screamed modern leader. She was headed to New York to deliver the keynote at the Global Ethics and Technology Conference, where she was being celebrated as the shining star of the next generation. Can you picture it? A young black woman commanding the room, about to school the world's tech giants on fairness and innovation. Maya had chosen seat 2A deliberately, a window-side haven at the very front of the cabin, perfect for working on her speech during the flight. She'd reserved it weeks ago, paid the hefty first-class fare, and confirmed it with her hard-earned Platinum membership. This wasn't just any seat. It was her workspace, her sanctuary for the journey ahead. But the moment she settled in, slipping her laptop toad under the seat, she felt it, that cold, piercing stare from a woman boarding behind her. Enter Karen Whitfield, Skylux's most infamous VIP. Known in business circles for her demanding nature and her knack for making flight attendants scurry, Karen stopped dead beside Maya's seat. She peered at Maya's boarding pass, her lips curling into a sneer. "This seat, 2A, is always mine," she declared, her voice carrying like a stage actor's. "I sit here on every flight." Oh, the entitlement. It wasn't just a statement. It was a proclamation meant to put Maya in her place and remind everyone within earshot who really belonged in first class. The tension in the cabin crackled like static electricity. Jessica, the lead flight attendant, swooped in with an awkward smile, her tone polite but frosty. "Pardon me, ma'am, but it appears there's been a mix-up. We need you to move so we can seat our regular platinum guest." "Regular? Really?" Maya raised an eyebrow, her courteous smile unwavering as she presented her platinum card and boarding pass again. "I'm a Skylux Platinum member," she said, her voice calm but unyielding. "This is the seat assigned to me. I reserved it 2 weeks ago. There's no mix-up here." Jessica's professional facade flickered for a split second, surprise flashing in her eyes before she glanced at Karen, as if seeking approval from the wealthier passenger. Karen, meanwhile, tapped her gleaming watch with growing impatience. "That seat is mine," she snapped, her voice loud enough to draw more stares. "I always sit there on my usual flight." Whispers spread like wildfire through the cabin. Asterisk, is she serious? Asterisk, one passenger muttered. Asterisk, she showed her card. Asterisk, another hissed. Maya felt every eye on her, some sympathetic, others shocked, but she knew this wasn't just about a seat. Oh no, this was about something much bigger. This was about being seen, being respected, being acknowledged as equal. What nobody in that cabin could have predicted was that this petty act of discrimination would spark the beginning of Skylux's unraveling. Maya sat firm in 2A, her posture unbowed, her gaze steady as a lighthouse in a storm. She wasn't just fighting for a seat. She was standing against an injustice, however small it seemed. And oh, how that stand would echo. The air in the first-class cabin grew heavier, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Jessica stood frozen for a heartbeat, her eyes darting from Maya's platinum card to Karen's expectant face, then sweeping over the plush seats that had long been the unspoken domain of Skylux's elite. Her hesitation wasn't just about protocol. It was the shadow of a system that favored the right kind of passenger, the ones who fit the airline's polished image of wealth and privilege. Can you believe they thought they could just brush Maya aside? Jessica leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a faux gentle tone that barely hid the pressure beneath. "I understand, Miss Richardson," she said, "but this seat is typically held for our long-standing platinum members, like Miss Whitfield here. I hope you'll understand. May I offer you another first-class seat with the same amenities? We just want to ensure our loyal guests receive the best possible service." Loyal? Best? Oh, please. Those words weren't diplomatic. They were a velvet glove over a fist of exclusion, a polite way of saying Maya didn't belong in their exclusive club. Maya's gaze didn't waver. She looked Jessica dead in the eye, her voice calm but resolute. "Thank you, but I booked this seat well in advance. I'm a platinum member, and I followed the proper booking process. I'm not moving." Boom. That quiet refusal sent a shockwave through the cabin. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances, some leaning forward in their seats. A few phones were already out, cameras rolling, capturing every second of the standoff. Asterisk, she's not budging. Asterisk, a woman whispered to her seatmate. Asterisk, good for her. Asterisk, another muttered. In that moment, the undercurrent of discrimination became impossible to ignore. It wasn't just a seat anymore. It was a battleground. Karen Whitfield, clutching her Hermes bag, her tailored suit pristine and her hair styled to perfection, let her composed facade slip. A scowl twisted her face, her irritation bubbling over. To her, Maya wasn't just an inconvenience. She was an intruder, not because of her youth or her simple, elegant attire, but because of her darker skin and her audacity to claim a space Karen saw as hers. "I sincerely hope this flight won't be delayed over such a trivial mix-up," Karen said, leaning in close to Jessica, her voice a hushed but commanding whisper. Miss Miller, you understand what I'm saying, right? Oh, the nerve. It wasn't a request. It was a power play, a reminder of Karen's clout. And then, in a move so slick it could have been choreographed, Karen discreetly slipped a stack of crisp bills into Jessica's coat pocket while pretending to adjust her bag in the overhead bin. One subtle touch, one knowing glance, and the deal was sealed. Jessica's eyes flickered with understanding. That moment wasn't just favoritism. It was a bribe, plain and simple, cloaked in the luxury of first class. Can you imagine? A flight attendant, bought off, right there in front of everyone. The masks were off now, exposing the ugly truth of prejudice and power. The cabin music played on, soft and unobtrusive, but in first class, the atmosphere was electric. Maya felt every undercurrent, every whispered judgment, every curious stare. Yet she sat tall, her hand gripping her boarding pass and platinum card, her eyes fixed on the window. She knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. This was the start of a real confrontation, a clash between entrenched privilege and the unyielding demand for justice. The tension only escalated when Trevor Davis, the first-class supervisor, strode into the fray. Tall, imposing, with a demeanor that screamed authority, Trevor didn't bother with pleasantries. He loomed over Maya's seat, his gaze cold as steel. Miss Richardson, he said, his voice low but firm, I'm the first-class supervisor on this flight. There appears to be a mistake with the seating. This seat is always reserved for our specially prioritized customers. We require you to cooperate and move to another seat so we can accommodate one of our long-standing patrons. Specially prioritized? Long-standing? Oh, come on. Those words were daggers, aimed straight at Maya's dignity and anyone who'd ever been pushed aside for not fitting the right mold. Maya met his gaze, unflinching. Mr. Davis, she said, her voice steady as ever, I'm a platinum member. This is the seat assigned on my ticket, and I reserved it exactly like anyone else. I have no reason to give it up. Mic drop. Trevor's forced smile twitched, his expression darkening. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper meant only for her. You should reconsider your attitude, he hissed. We don't want to make a fuss, but I can make your experience very unpleasant. Don't fight the system, Miss Richardson. A threat? At 30,000 feet? The audacity was breathtaking. To Trevor, Maya was just an obstacle, someone who could be bullied out of the way to keep the right passengers happy. But the cabin was watching now. Passengers leaned in, some with indignation, others with phones still rolling. It's clearly discrimination, a middle-aged woman murmured to her neighbor. She showed her platinum card. Another passenger nodded, whispering, This is outrageous. Meanwhile, Karen sat back, gripping her designer bag, a smug smirk playing on her lips as if she'd already won. Her eyes scanned the cabin like a queen surveying her court, basking in the privilege she'd always known. But Maya? She wasn't just a passenger in 2A. She was a titan in her own right, a woman who'd built an empire from the ground up, a leader who'd faced down bias before and come out stronger. As the cabin buzzed around her, she sat resolute, her eyes fixed on the horizon beyond the window. This wasn't just about a seat anymore. It was about dignity, about challenging a system that thrived on exclusion. And oh, how that challenge would ripple far beyond the confines of this flight. Skylux had no idea what they'd just unleashed. Oh, can you believe the audacity? The air in Skylux Airlines' first-class cabin was so thick with tension you could have cut it with a butter knife. Maya Richardson sat in seat 2A, her posture as unyielding as a mountain, her dark eyes blazing with a resolve that could have stopped a hurricane. She wasn't just a passenger fighting for a seat. She was a beacon, a symbol for anyone who'd ever been shoved aside by the invisible, suffocating rules of privilege. How dare they try to dim her light? Trevor Davis, the first-class supervisor, had lost every shred of his polished composure. His face was a storm cloud as he straightened up, shot a sharp signal to Jessica, the flight attendant, and declared to the entire cabin, If she still refuses to comply, I'll report this to the captain. His voice was icy, dripping with authority. Miss Richardson, this is your final chance to move seats voluntarily. Can you imagine the nerve? Jessica, standing beside him, shifted on her feet, her face betraying a flicker of unease. Oh, she knew she was complicit, but she clung to her role like a lifeline, her eyes darting away from Maya's steady gaze. And Karen Whitfield? That woman's lip curled into a smug little smirk, her expensive watch glinting as she leaned back, already savoring what she thought was her victory. Victory? Huh. She had no idea the firestorm she'd just helped ignite. The cabin was no longer just a fancy lounge in the sky. It was a stage, and every passenger was a witness. Phones were out, cameras rolling, whispers buzzing like bees. The unwritten rules of privilege were trembling, and Maya was the earthquake ready to bring them down. Maya sat tall, unshaken, her presence commanding even in the face of Trevor's threats. She knew the tide was turning. Could you feel it? One more move, and Trevor's fragile grip on control would slip right through his fingers. With a scowl, he pressed a button on his headset to summon the captain, his glare practically daring Maya to keep defying him. Oh, how he underestimated her courage. The entire cabin held its breath, the tension so palpable it felt like the plane itself was waiting for the next move. Less than 2 minutes later, the silence was deafening. Every eye locked on seat 2A, every heart pounding. What was about to happen? The cockpit door swung open with a soft creak, and out stepped Captain James Reynolds, his presence as commanding as a general's. His crisp uniform gleamed under the cabin lights, his salt and pepper hair perfectly trimmed, and those gray eyes? They carried the weight of 3 decades in the sky. This was a man who expected absolute respect, no questions asked. He didn't bother with small talk or fake smiles. Striding straight to Maya's seat, he paused beside Trevor, gave Jessica a fleeting glance, then fixed his steely gaze on Maya. "Miss Richardson," he said, his voice low but booming enough to make every passenger sit up straighter. "I've been informed of a seating issue in first class. Under Skylux Airlines policy, my crew has full authority to adjust passenger seating to ensure convenience and satisfaction for our regular clients." Regular clients? Really? The words hung in the air like a slap, and he wasn't done. "I must ask you to cooperate by moving to another first-class seat. If you refuse, I'll have no choice but to request airport security. Please reconsider." Oh, the gall. It wasn't a request. It was an ultimatum, a demand to bow to a system that favored the right kind of passenger. The cabin was a pressure cooker now. Customer service? Huh. This was a power play, a stark reminder that privilege ruled these skies. Every eye was on Maya. Some passengers held their breath. Others exchanged worried glances. A few phones were still recording, capturing every second of this injustice. Could you feel the storm brewing? Maya took a deep breath, her poise unshakable, her lips pressed into a line of quiet determination. She looked up at Captain Reynolds, her voice steady as a rock. "I respect safety regulations," she said, each word deliberate, "but I'm a platinum member who legitimately reserved this seat. I won't give it up just because another regular guest prefers it." Boom. That was no mere response. It was a declaration, a line in the sand. A heavy silence followed. Reynolds' face twitched, his patience evaporating like mist. Irritation flashed in his eyes, mixed with something rare for him, confusion. Resistance on his flight? Unheard of. Trevor stood behind him, arms crossed, his glare boring into Maya like she was a problem to be erased. Jessica hovered nearby, her hands fidgeting, her unease not for Maya, but for the airline's polished image, now teetering on the edge. "If you persist," Reynolds snapped, his tone as hard as steel, "I'll have to call security. This is my final warning." Oh, the outrage. Murmurs rippled through the cabin. An older gentleman shook his head, muttering, "This is unbelievable." A young woman whispered to her seatmate, "They're bullying her just because she's not one of their regulars. Can you believe the injustice?" But Maya? She didn't flinch. Her gaze locked onto Reynolds, calm and unyielding. "Do what you think is right," she said softly, "and I'll do what I believe is right." Oh, snap. That was the moment the cabin froze, the air charged with the weight of her words. Reynolds tapped his headset, signaling for ground security through Trevor. The passengers' stares turned from curious to indignant, their whispers growing louder. The soft tap of fingers on phone screens filled the silence. Some were live-streaming now, others typing furiously. This wasn't just a seating dispute anymore. It was a showdown between power, privilege, and one woman's unbreakable courage. The cabin doors slid open with a soft click, and two uniformed security officers stepped in, their stern faces and dark blue uniforms sucking the air out of the room. The tension skyrocketed. Could you feel your heart racing? They marched down the aisle, straight towards seat 2A, their footsteps heavy on the carpeted floor. Passengers who'd been mere spectators were now caught in the vortex of this injustice, their whispers turning into a low hum of disbelief. Maya sat upright, her phone in hand, her eyes never wavering as the officers approached. No fear, no arrogance, just pure, unshakable resolve. In any other world, that strength would have commanded respect. But to Trevor, Jessica, and Reynolds, she was just a problem, a stubborn thorn in their side. "Ma'am, please gather your belongings and vacate this seat," one officer said, his tone flat, like he was reading from script. "Crew request." "Crew request? Are you kidding me?" Maya didn't hesitate. She turned on her phone's camera, hit record, and spoke clearly, her voice steady enough to cut through the tension. "I am Maya Richardson, a Platinum member. This seat was legitimately reserved for me. I've been told to leave without any explanation of wrongdoing." Oh, the power in those words. Trevor's frown deepened, his hand clenching into a fist. Jessica looked away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Guilt, maybe, but not enough to make her speak up. And Karen? Oh, that woman sat there, clutching her Hermes bag, a smug grin spreading across her face like she'd just won the lottery. Victory? She thought so, but oh, how wrong she was. The officers repeated their demand, their voices robotic. "We're following crew instructions. Please comply, or we'll have to enforce it." Murmurs of outrage erupted now. A middle-aged woman in row 3B spoke up, her voice trembling but loud. "This is unfair. She hasn't done anything wrong." An older man across the aisle shook his head, muttering, "She has a first-class ticket and a platinum card, and now they're treating her like a criminal." Phones clicked on everywhere. Some passengers were live-streaming, others posting to social media. Comments flooded in. Discrimination in real time. Is this really happening in 2025? Hashtag Justice for Maya. Can you imagine the uproar? Maya didn't budge. With deliberate care, she packed her laptop, her documents, her small handbag, each movement a quiet act of dignity. If they thought they could humiliate her, they were dead wrong. She stood, and the space between her and Karen felt like a battlefield. On one side, the old guard of privilege, rooted in skin color and status. On the other, a young black CEO daring to demand justice. Karen's smug grin widened, as if she'd reclaimed her throne. Jessica's hands shook, her shame palpable but silent. Trevor just nodded to the officers, like this was just another task checked off his list. As Maya was escorted out of first class, dozens of eyes followed her, some filled with sympathy, others with admiration, and a few heavy with guilt for witnessing an injustice they couldn't stop. A young man stood, phone in hand, shouting she did nothing wrong. "This is discrimination." A woman nearby wept softly, whispering to her friend, "She's the first black woman I've seen stand up like that in first class." But the cabin stayed helpless as Maya's footsteps echoed down the aisle, the officer's stiff strides a grim rhythm beside her. Oh, how that sound lingered, a mournful melody carrying her out into the airport corridor. In the VIP lounge, Maya was asked to wait while the matter was resolved. Resolved? Huh. She didn't argue or cry. Instead, she opened her phone, her fingers flying as she drafted an email to her lawyer and communications team, attaching the video footage and images. Then she texted her assistant, "Prepare all documentation. This isn't over." Oh, you better believe it wasn't. Back on the flight, as the door closed and the plane prepared for takeoff without Maya, the first-class cabin felt colder than ice. Karen sank into seat 2, sipping a compensatory glass of champagne Jessica served with trembling hands. Trevor slumped in his seat, his hardened facade cracking just a bit. Passengers whispered, some uploading videos to social media, others vowing to file complaints the moment they landed. Everyone in that cabin knew they'd witnessed more than a forced removal. They'd seen a young black woman publicly shamed for daring to stand her ground. But Maya? She sat tall in the dim lounge, her eyes blazing with purpose. If anyone thought this would break her, they were in for a shock. Her recorded humiliation, seen by dozens on board and countless more online, was no defeat. It was the spark of a firestorm. This wasn't just about a seat anymore. It was about dismantling the invisible barriers of privilege, and Maya Richardson was just getting started. Skylux had no idea the reckoning headed their way. Oh, can you believe the injustice of it all? Maya Richardson sat in the VIP lounge, her fingers flying across her phone, scrolling through the footage she'd captured, every damning moment of Skylux Airlines' blatant discrimination. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was a beacon for millions pushed aside in boardrooms, classrooms, or even the skies above America. How dare they think they could silence her? Meanwhile, on the very plane that had just ejected her, now taxiing toward the runway at JFK, a different kind of storm was brewing. The truth was clawing its way out from under the suffocating weight of privilege, and it was about to hit Skylux like a freight train. Every smug smile, every whispered threat, every furtive glance had been caught, not just by Maya's phone, but by the sharp eyes of passengers who refused to stay silent. Leading the charge was Samantha Brooks, a young woman with dark brown hair, swept into a high ponytail, her gray hoodie a stark contrast to the cabin's pristine white leather. Oh, Samantha was no ordinary bystander. Her light brown skin stood out as she wielded her phone like a weapon, her reporter's instincts kicking in a high gear. From her seat just a few rows back, she'd captured it all. Jessica's hushed whispers to Karen as she pocketed those folded bills, Trevor's sly grin as he tucked cash in his breast pocket, and Karen's smug declaration, "I always sit here. It belongs to me." Can you imagine the audacity? Samantha's video was a masterpiece of truth, nearly 8 minutes of raw, unfiltered evidence. It showed Jessica's awkward, complicit glances as she tried to coax Maya out of her rightful seat. It caught Karen's insincere bow, her voice dripping with entitlement as she claimed 2A as her personal kingdom. It exposed Trevor's arrogant headshake when Maya stood her ground. And, most gut-wrenching of all, the moment security forced Maya to stand and leave first class while dozens watched, helpless. Oh, the nerve of it! And the kicker? Karen's hushed, "Thank you for upholding first-class standards," as she slipped wads of cash to both Jessica and Trevor. Samantha didn't hesitate. With the savvy of a digital warrior, she edited the footage mid-flight, added English subtitles, and slapped on a headline that cut like a blade. Black woman with platinum status kicked out of her first-class seat to make room for a white VIP. Cash changed hands. Boom! Less than 15 minutes after the plane landed at JFK, Samantha's video hit Twitter like a meteor, tagged with hashtag SkyluxDiscrimination and hashtag JusticeForMaya, pinging Skylux Airlines' official account and the nation's top news outlets. The internet exploded. "This is 2025, not 1955, one user raged. She paid for the seat, showed her platinum card. What more do they want? White skin, another demanded. The outcry was a tidal wave, unstoppable and fierce. CNN flashed the banner. Viral video shows black CEO removed from first-class seat despite valid ticket. Discrimination allegations rock Skylux Airlines. The New York Times called it a stark example of latent prejudice still plaguing America. Even Fox News looped the clip, slamming the hypocrisy of the luxury service industry. Can you believe the speed of it all? The fire didn't stop there. TikTokers, YouTubers, and equality advocates amplified Samantha's footage, each adding their own fiery takes under hashtag JusticeForMaya. Within 6 hours, the video had racked up 1.2 million views, skyrocketing to Twitter's top 3 global trends. Comments poured in by the hundreds of thousands, demanding Skylux answer for their actions. No weak apologies, no corporate spin, just accountability. A prominent black tech CEO tweeted, "Today it's Maya. Tomorrow it could be any of us. If we don't stop this, injustice will just wear a new face." Anti-racism groups hosted live streams, dissecting the systemic bias in luxury services and sharing stories of similar incidents buried for too long. And it wasn't just people of color. White, Asian American, and Latino voices joined the chorus, shouting their shame and outrage at Skylux's blatant favoritism. Oh, the unity was powerful. Skylux's "Contact Us" inbox was a war zone, flooded with hundreds of emails and thousands of calls demanding answers. Who were the staff involved? What was Karen Whitfield's role? Was this how Skylux treated anyone who didn't fit their mold of privilege? Inside Skylux's Chicago headquarters, the boardroom was a pressure cooker. Senior leaders scrambled, their phones buzzing with alerts, their faces pale as they tried to craft a response. But social media's wrath was beyond any crisis playbook. Maya, still in the lounge, was floored by the support pouring in, hundreds of messages from across the globe, screenshots, alternate video angles, all building an airtight case. A renowned civil rights attorney messaged her, "Let us protect you. This truth won't be buried." Human rights groups worldwide hailed Samantha's footage as a textbook case of racism cloaked in luxury. Can you feel the momentum? Even within Skylux's ranks, the cracks were showing. Junior and middle-level employees shared the video internally, their disgust boiling over. One wrote on the company intranet, "If this is our idea of service values, I'm ashamed to wear this uniform." In under 24 hours, Skylux's discrimination had become a global lightning rod, fueling demands for justice not just for Maya, but for anyone ever pushed out of their rightful place because of skin color, age, or gender. At the heart of it all was Maya, rising calmly from her seat, refusing to bow or weep, her phone capturing every moment, her confidence unshaken. She was no longer just a passenger. She was an emblem of a new era, unafraid, unyielding, and never alone. The truth was out, and it wasn't going back into the shadows. But oh, the storm was just beginning. At Skylux's glittering Chicago headquarters, the air was suffocating, the top-floor boardroom a hive of panic. Phones buzzed relentlessly, brows furrowed, and fingers flew across keyboards as the online outrage erupted like a volcano. And then, a horrifying secret, one whispered only among a select few executives, burst into the open, sending genuine terror through Skylux's upper ranks. Richard Williams, the seasoned CEO, stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at the Chicago traffic below, his knuckles white around his phone. Dozens of urgent emails and partner messages flooded his screen, each one a dagger to his career. Then came the call that stopped his heart. Mr. Williams, the vice president of external affairs, said, voice trembling, "We have a major problem. That video is going global." But that's not all. The woman kicked off this morning's flight? It's Maya Richardson. Williams' frown deepened, his mind racing to place the name. Maya Richardson? A VIP, sure, but then the VP forwarded an internal dossier with her LinkedIn photo, and it hit him like a thunderbolt. His throat went dry, his heart pounding. The file screamed the truth. Maya Richardson, founder and CEO, Right Tech Solutions, exclusive AI provider to global service brands, holds 25% of Skylux Airlines via affiliated investment funds, sole candidate for current $50 million digital transformation contract. 25%. Not just a stake, but enough to sway every major board vote, to topple any corporate plan, to end any CEO's tenure with a flick of her wrist. And that $50 million contract? It was Skylux's lifeline in a cutthroat, AI-driven market. Without Maya's tech, their digital upgrades, service innovations, and cost-cutting dreams would collapse like a house of cards. Oh, the sheer panic. If this hit the markets, Skylux's stock would plummet. Investors would flee, triggering a domino effect of defaults. Before Williams could catch his breath, his phone buzzed with calls from Wall Street's heavyweights. "Richard, what the hell is going on?" one demanded. "We saw the clip on CNBC. Explain this now. If you don't contain this in 24 hours, we're liquidating our holdings. Is it true you ejected RightTech CEO from a first-class seat?" Board members around the table scrambled, firing off emails to attorneys, their faces slick with sweat. Williams felt the weight of it all. Skylux hadn't just wronged a passenger. They'd crossed a Titan. Maya wasn't just a VIP. She held their fate in her hands. Her shares, her tech, her network, and now the world's outrage. Can you imagine the terror? What scared Williams most wasn't just that Maya could pull the plug on their contracts or send investors running. It was that Skylux had nurtured this disaster for years, coddling outdated practices that valued skin color and connections over dignity and fairness. And today, that bomb had detonated. As legal and PR teams scrambled to draft damage control, Samantha's video kept spreading like wildfire. CEOs, fund managers, even mid-level Skylux employees were panicking, realizing Maya was no mere victim. She had the power, the savvy, and the composure to push this crisis to the breaking point, and she hadn't even spoken yet. That silence? It was deafening, more terrifying than any accusation. Then, Maya's first message hit Williams' inbox, cool, precise, and razor-sharp. "I request an emergency shareholder meeting to address your corporate culture, personnel policies, and the impact of this incident on the current digital transformation contract. I am prepared to cooperate within legal frameworks." Oh, the chill that ran down his spine. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise, delivered with the calm of a chess grandmaster. Williams swallowed hard, grasping for any hope, but he knew this was no longer an internal issue. It was a fight for Skylux's survival. Maya's email demanded a fully attended online shareholder meeting at 4 p.m. that day, a deadline that screamed urgency. What Skylux didn't know was that this was just her opening move. Behind her calm exterior was a machine of elite lawyers, top-tier communication specialists, and strategic advisors in tech and finance, already gathered in RightTech's New York boardroom. Every detail of that morning's incident was being dissected. Samantha's video, with its irrefutable audio and visuals, was their cornerstone. "We're not just protecting Maya's rights," declared lead counsel Raymond Oliver, his voice resolute. "We're defending everyone ever excluded from first class anywhere in the world." Oh, the power of that mission. The truth was out, and it was unstoppable. Maya's story had outgrown that airplane cabin, igniting a firestorm against injustice that would burn far beyond Skylux. She was no longer just a wronged passenger. She was a movement, a symbol of courage, and a force that would reshape the luxury service industry. Skylux's empire was crumbling, and all Williams could do was brace for the storm. The reckoning had begun, and Maya Richardson was leading the charge. Oh, can you believe the sheer weight of it all? Maya Richardson wasn't just a name anymore. She was a blazing symbol for millions shoved out of their rightful places, whether in boardrooms, classrooms, or the vast skies stretching across America. How dare Skylux think they could sweep her aside? As she sat in the VIP lounge, her fingers dancing across her phone, reviewing the footage that captured every second of that morning's injustice, a tidal wave of truth was crashing through the digital world. RightTech's head of communications, Michelle Carter, was a force of nature, firing off notices to every major news outlet like arrows from a bow. "Maya will speak at the emergency shareholder meeting," she declared. "We demand absolute transparency. No excuses from Skylux." Oh, the fire in those words. The media storm hit Skylux's shores like a hurricane, and there was no hiding from it. Reporters from CNN, Bloomberg, and the New York Times swarmed Skylux's offices, clamoring for press credentials or an exclusive with Maya. Can you imagine the frenzy? International finance journals treated the shareholder meeting like a global economic summit, publishing its schedule and anticipated announcement time as if the world's markets hung in the balance. And in a way, they did. At Skylux's Chicago headquarters, Richard Williams, the CEO, sat at the head of the boardroom table, looking like he'd aged a decade in mere hours. He pored over Maya's email for what felt like the 100th time, each word a sledgehammer to his crumbling empire. As Skylux Airlines' largest shareholder and legal representative of Right Tech Solutions, I hereby demand an urgent meeting with the full board and all shareholders. Her demands were crystal clear. Incontrovertible evidence of ethics violations, discrimination, and bribery implicating Trevor Davis, Jessica Miller, and Captain James Reynolds. She called for their immediate termination and a public disclosure of the reasons. And the kicker? If these demands are not met within 24 hours, I will divest my entire 25% stake and void the $50 million contract with Right Tech Solutions. Oh snap. No apologies, no tears, just a razor-sharp ultimatum that could topple an airline. The boardroom was a tomb, the silence so heavy it could have crushed bones. A few directors opened their mouths to defend Trevor, Jessica, or Reynolds, long-serving loyalists, after all, but the video evidence stopped them cold. Karen Whitfield's smug gestures, the crisp bills sliding into Trevor's pocket, Jessica's complicit bow. It was all there, undeniable. Who could offend that? Williams realized this wasn't just about Maya's personal grievance. It was a reckoning for Skylux's entire culture, a lesson in accountability that would cost them dearly. The antagonists were laid bare. Trevor, once the king of first class, now trembling as he drafted a futile statement. Jessica, haunted by her own cowardice, tears welling as she faced her complicity. And Captain Reynolds, his 3-decade legacy shattered by one moment of inaction. Oh, how the mighty had fallen. Across the divide, Maya strategized with her legal team in Right Tech's New York office. Her calm focus a stark contrast to Skylux's panic. She barely spoke, her mind racing through contingencies. If Skylux refused her demands, she'd unleash every video, email, and witness affidavit to the global media and file a class action suit in federal court. If they offered concessions, she'd demand independent oversight of HR, sweeping corporate culture reforms, and Right Tech appointees on the board. And if push came to shove, she was ready to rally other investors to divest in solidarity. A corporate nuclear option that could obliterate Skylux. Can you feel the power in her hands? The emergency shareholder meeting was hours away, and the hush in Skylux's halls was no calm. It was the eerie quiet before a storm breaks. Millions watched from the outside, wondering, could one woman uproot a system of entrenched privilege? Would Skylux choose justice or cling to its sinking ship? As the clock ticked toward the meeting, Skylux's headquarters felt like a fortress under siege. In its 30-year history, the board had never faced such fragility. Gone were the days of smug revenue reports and expansion plans. Today, every eye was glued to the massive screen where Maya's name loomed, not just as the largest shareholder, but as the judge of Skylux's fate. In Right Tech's New York office, Maya appeared on screen, her minimalist black suit a stark contrast to the tasteful blue and white backdrop. Her eyes burned with determination, her lips set in a firm line, flanked by lawyers armed with laptops and notes like warriors ready for battle. Oh, the intensity! Richard Williams, once a master negotiator, had spent a sleepless night drafting apologies, offering dividends, even a board seat with veto power. But one look at Maya's icy resolve told him this wasn't a negotiation. This was a revolution. The meeting kicked off with tension so thick you could have sliced it. The board chairman's weak opening statement, acknowledging a serious incident and promising an investigation, felt like a flimsy shield against Maya's arsenal. Everyone knew the real question. What did Maya want? Could Skylux save its soul, or would it crumble under her righteous fury? Maya presented her case with surgical precision. Videos, audio, witness testimonies, images of Karen slipping cash to Jessica and Trevor, and Reynolds' indifferent inaction. Slide after slide exposed the truth. Trevor's threatening tone, Jessica's complicity, Reynolds' failure to lead. Skylux's glossy slogan, "Service above all," rang hollow now, mocked by the raw evidence of ethical breaches and discrimination. Oh, how the board squirmed. Williams stood, his voice shaking as he tried to salvage something. "Miss Richardson, we accept full responsibility and extend our deepest apologies to you. our customers, and shareholders. But please reconsider dismissing Trevor, Jessica, and Captain Reynolds. They've served this company for years. Surely this was just a lapse. A lapse? Really? Maya cut him off, her voice calm but unyielding. Mr. Williams, this isn't about three individuals. It's about a system that's enabled prejudice and privilege for years. Any organization serious about growth must hold itself accountable and not shield those who violate its values. If Skylux can't do that, I'll withdraw my stake and end our partnership. Boom! The room erupted in silence, a rupture so profound it shook the board to its core. A few progressive shareholders nodded, knowing Maya's exit would trigger a cascade of divestments, a death knell for Skylux. Under the crushing weight of Maya's demands, public outrage, investor pressure, and even disillusioned employees, the board made a historic call. Trevor Davis, Jessica Miller, and Captain Reynolds would be fired immediately, their dismissals and reasons blasted to the press and customers. Within 30 minutes, Skylux's website and social media channels posted the statement. We regret to announce that Trevor Davis, Jessica Miller, and Captain James Reynolds have been dismissed for professional misconduct, failure to uphold our service standards, and serious damage to Skylux Airlines' reputation. We pledge a thorough investigation and comprehensive reforms to restore trust. Oh, the shockwaves. Trevor left the room, pale and unable to meet anyone's eyes. Jessica sobbed openly, packing her belongings as tears streamed down her face. Reynolds, silent, clutched his flight cap like it was all he had left of his shattered career. The click of the boardroom doors as they exited echoed like a final gavel. Maya showed no hint of triumph. She exhaled, her gaze steady on the screen, where justice was finally taking root. This wasn't about revenge. It was about rebuilding a system on truth and accountability. The days that followed saw the media storm intensify, peeling away the last masks of Skylux's untouchables. Trevor became a pariah, his face plastered across headlines and TikTok parodies, dubbed the gatekeeper of discrimination. His job applications to airlines, big and small, were rejected outright. Once Skylux's enforcer, he was now a cautionary tale in HR trainings, his belated apologies falling flat. Oh, how the mighty had fallen. Jessica's fate was no kinder. Once the darling of VIPs, she was now a symbol of complicity. Netizens dissected her every move, her averted eyes, her silence during the bribe, her forced smile. Former colleagues whispered in group chats. How could she betray her own customer is everything mantra? No airline would touch her applications, and even non-aviation firms shunned her tainted reputation. Night after night, she scrolled through scathing comments, her tears a bitter reminder of the cost of silence. And Captain Reynolds? A legend who'd flown through storms and saved lives, now unemployable. His stellar resume couldn't erase the stain of a betting privilege. In aviation, reputation is everything, and his was gone. Can you imagine the weight of that loss? The story wasn't just Maya's or Skylux's anymore. It was a thunderous indictment of a generation of gatekeepers. Every news outlet, from CNN to Reddit, framed it as a turning point. Social media roared with hashtag Justice for Maya, demanding accountability not just from Skylux, but from every industry clinging to outdated privilege. Maya's calm resolve in that shareholder meeting became iconic, her image shared across platforms as a symbol of a new era. Skylux's dark day wasn't remembered for shame, but for opening the door to real change from the ground up. No more room for prejudice, no more shadows for privilege to hide in. Maya had lit a fire that would burn bright, reshaping the skies and beyond. Oh, can you believe the fallout? The air was electric with the sting of justice, and Maya Richardson stood at the heart of it all, a blazing symbol for millions who'd been pushed out of their rightful places, whether in boardrooms, classrooms, or the vast skies above America. How dare Skylux think they could bury this? Every rejection email that landed in Captain James Reynolds' inbox was a gut punk. Each one echoing the same cold line. We value your experience, but the position has been filled. His former peers, once quick to toast his heroics in the cockpit, now offered only hushed condolences or turned their backs entirely. No one dared mention the storms he'd navigated or the lives he'd saved. His name was blacklisted, scribbled onto do-not-hire lists at 3 major airlines. Can you imagine the pain? Every time he drove past an airport, watching jets soar into the sky, his jaw clenched so tight it could have cracked stone, fighting back the tears. A lifetime of pride, built over decades of commanding the skies, shattered by one moment of weakness. Oh, how it must have burned. But the reckoning didn't stop with Reynolds. Karen Whitfield, the woman whose crisp stack of bills and smug whispers had sparked this firestorm, was about to learn that privilege couldn't shield her forever. Days after the incident, the board of her prestigious law firm convened an emergency session, their faces grim as they suspended her indefinitely, pending a full ethics investigation. The headlines were merciless. Airline Karen, Queen of Privilege, and the cash-stuffed first-class seat splashed across every major outlet. On Twitter, #Airline Karen exploded, trending globally with tens of thousands of memes and caricatures mocking her Hermes bag and that self-satisfied smirk. She became the face of an elite drunk on entitlement, not merit. Can you picture the humiliation? Her firm's contracts vanished overnight, partners scrambling to erase her name from every project. Friends who once fawned over her now muted her in group chats, unfollowed her on social media, and whispered her name like a curse at high society galas. Some even breathed a sigh of relief, as if her fall was long overdue for years of bending rules to feed her ego. Oh, the irony! Journalists dug into Karen's past, unearthing a trail of hush-money tactics at fancy restaurants and luxury hotels, where her status and complicit onlookers had always let her skate by. But not this time. The digital age was a beast she couldn't tame, and every shield of privilege crumbled under the weight of public outrage. The fallout wasn't just hers. It rippled to Trevor Davis, Jessica Miller, and even the silent enablers who'd turn a blind eye. Equality advocates held up the scandal as a textbook case of privilege's poison and the danger of complicity. This wasn't just a story anymore. It was a wake-up call. In the age of transparency, every injustice would be dragged into the light. And the price? Oh, it was steep, no matter how powerful you thought you were. For Maya, though, the real victory wasn't the downfall of these individuals. It was the door she'd kicked wide open to a new era, where justice's voice roared louder than any excuse. The aftermath wasn't just about Skylux's collapse. It was a mirror held up to an entire system. With #JusticeForMaya still burning bright across social media, Maya emerged not as a vengeful victor, but as the architect of a new standard for an industry rotten with hidden bias. Because she held onto her 25% stake and her reputation as a fearless challenger of injustice, Skylux had no choice but to approach her with genuine goodwill. After sleepless nights of tense negotiations, they announced a move that shook the aviation world to its core. All Skylux Airlines operations will be suspended for 48 hours for mandatory anti-racism and unconscious bias training for every employee, from flight attendants to the C-suite. Can you believe the boldness? At the press conference the next morning, Maya stood beside CEO Richard Williams, their faces reflecting the weight of the moment. She spoke with quiet power, no need for theatrics. We can't undo what happened, but we can start changing today. Justice isn't just about punishing individuals. It's about building a system where everyone learns to respect others, no matter their background, skin color, or status. Oh, the strength in those words. This wasn't some corporate checkbox exercise. Maya worked with psychologists, diversity experts, and RightTech's AI team to craft immersive simulations, forcing every employee to walk in both the victim's and perpetrator's shoes. Can you imagine facing your own biases like that? Skylux's boardrooms and lounges turned into training hubs, flights grounded, passengers rebooked or refunded. The cost? Millions in just 2 days. But the media hailed it as a historic shockwave, the boldest move in U.S. aviation history. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News broadcast live as Maya and Williams took the podium, pledging accountability and confronting the system's deepest wounds. Social media erupted with analyses of the training program. Clips of Skylux employees sharing raw reflections on confronting their biases. If an airline can admit its mistakes and start over, what's stopping banks, hotels, or restaurants? One commenter demanded. Inside Skylux, the shift was seismic. Employees who'd silently benefited from unwritten privilege codes now faced their own complicity. Some grumbled, calling the shutdown excessive, but others spoke out. For the first time, I believe Skylux will change. I've waited a decade for this. Oh, the hope in those voices. An anonymous survey revealed a staggering truth. 83% of employees had witnessed or participated in unfair situations but stayed silent out of fear. The darkness of bias ran deeper than anyone had admitted, and Skylux's leadership was stunned. The scandal's villains, Trevor, Jessica, Reynolds, and Karen, became living case studies woven into training materials. Every employee was asked, when you face injustice, will you stand with the victim or turn away? The question echoed from boardrooms to break rooms, a challenge to every heart. International media, from the UK to Japan, held up Skylux as a bold example of corporate reform, a rarity in a world where companies often hide behind PR spin. From the smallest shuttle to the grandest terminal, one question lingered. How many more Maya Richardsons have been forced from their rightful seats because of prejudice? By working with Maya, Skylux didn't just save its reputation. It began rebuilding trust with customers, employees, and investors who'd been ready to jump ship. Most importantly, they sparked a reform ensuring every first-class seat went to those who earned it, no matter their skin color, age, or status. Oh, what a legacy! The days after the firings saw the media storm grow fiercer, tearing away the last masks of those who'd once thought themselves untouchable. Trevor Davis, once the king of first class, was reduced to a punchline. His face was everywhere, on TikTok parodies, Twitter memes, Reddit threads, branded the gatekeeper of discrimination, and Trevor, last bastion of white privilege. Clips of his icy glare at Maya looped endlessly, fueling thousands of furious comments. Every job application he sent, from major airlines to tiny regional carriers, came back with the same cold rejection, position filled. Once Skylux's enforcer, he was now a cautionary tale in HR trainings across the industry. His televised apologies? Flat and futile. The man who'd ruled the skies was now adrift on solid ground. Can you feel his regret? Jessica Miller's fall was just as brutal. Once the darling of VIPs, praised for her poise, she became the face of complicity. Netizens dissected her every move, her averted eyes, her silence during the bribe, her forced smile as she pressured Maya. Former colleagues, once jealous of her rise, now whispered in group chats. How could she betray her own customer-first mantra? No airline would touch her applications, and even non-aviation firms shunned her tainted name. Friends offered hollow sympathy, each word a reminder of her failure to act. Night after night, she scrolled through scathing comments, tears falling as she mourned choosing safety over justice. Oh, the weight of that choice. Captain Reynolds, a legend who'd flown through storms and saved lives, couldn't weather this one. In aviation, reputation is everything, and his was gone. No carrier risked hiring a captain who'd abetted privilege, no matter his flight record. Rejection emails piled up, all with the same line, position filled. His peers offered condolences or ghosted him entirely, never mentioning his past heroics. Driving past airports, watching planes climb into the sky, he fought back tears, his pride shattered by one lapse. A lifetime's legacy, gone in a day. And Karen Whitfield? Her fall was the loudest. Suspended from her law firm, her name erased from contracts, shunned by high society. She was Airline Karen, now a global meme. Her past tricks, slipping cash to smooth over disputes, were exposed, powerless against the digital age's wrath. Can you imagine the loneliness? The scandal wasn't just about Skylux. It was a reckoning for an entire generation of gatekeepers. Every news outlet, from CNN to Reddit, framed it as a turning point. Hashtag Justice for Maya roared across platforms, demanding accountability from every industry clinging to privilege. Maya's calm resolve in that shareholder meeting became iconic, her image a symbol of a new era. Skylux's dark day wasn't about shame. It was about opening a door to real change from the ground up. No more hiding prejudice. No more shielding privilege. Maya had lit a fire that would burn bright, reshaping the skies and beyond. Skylux was taking flight again, not on empty slogans, but on a foundation of justice and equality. Oh, can you believe the seismic shift that rocked Skylux Airlines? The digital age was a beast, and it tore through every flimsy shield of privilege with a vengeance. Journalists dug into Karen Whitfield's past like hounds on a scent, unearthing a trail of hush-money schemes at swanky restaurants and luxury hotels. She'd always skated by, her status and silent bystanders her armor. But this time? Oh, no way. Every tactic crumbled against the unstoppable force of social media's wrath. Can you imagine the shock? The ripple effect didn't just hit Karen, Trevor Davis, Jessica Miller, and Captain James Reynolds. It slammed into every enabler who'd ever turn a blind eye. Equality advocates shouted from the rooftops, calling this a textbook case of privilege's poison and the danger of silent complicity. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a wake-up call that echoed far beyond Skylux's walls, shaking the very foundations of corporate America. It wasn't some abstract lesson in a boardroom anymore. It was raw, unfiltered reality. In this age of transparency, every injustice gets dragged into the light. And the price? It's never cheap, no matter how powerful you think you are. For Maya Richardson, though, the real triumph wasn't watching her adversaries fall. It was the door she'd flung wide open to a new culture, where justice's voice booms louder than any excuse, forcing everyone to face their own truth. Oh, what a victory! Since Skylux relaunched under a tidal wave of reform, Maya's role transcended shareholder or corporate architect. She became a beacon of hope, ensuring not just punishment, but a chance for those who'd done wrong to change, to grow, to help mend the wounds they'd caused. Can you feel the power in that vision? To make that dream real, Maya launched Second Chance, a groundbreaking initiative unlike anything American business had ever seen. Forget those tired one-day workshops. Second Chance was a months-long journey, a rigorous ecosystem of support and retraining. Participants faced brutal assessments of their awareness, behavior, and emotional growth, all built on a simple truth. Nobody's born perfect. Real growth comes from facing the truth, owning your mistakes, and learning to live better. And who were the first to step into this crucible under the world's glaring spotlight? Trevor Davis, Jessica Miller, and Captain James Reynolds, the very trio at the heart of Skylux's crisis. Once symbols of entitlement, complicity, and indifference, they now walked a grueling path of atonement. Can you imagine the courage it took? Trevor, once strutting in his crisp cabin supervisor uniform, now sat quietly in a plain t-shirt, his fingers nervously tracing the spiral binding a notebook he hadn't touched in years. In early sessions, he dodged and deflected, blaming pressure, circumstances, even those unwritten rules. But the trainers? Oh, they didn't let him off the hook. Have you ever asked why you valued power over someone's dignity? They pressed. Each session forced Trevor to dig deep, confronting childhood lessons of racial superiority and the arrogance he'd mistaken for procedure. The turning point? Watching that gut-wrenching footage of himself mocking Maya, his threats echoing in the silent room. Then came the real blow, sitting face-to-face with victims, not through emails but in raw, honest dialogue. One day, Trevor broke down, tears streaming. I never saw myself as a bad person, but I became a tool of a broken system. I'm sorry. I want to make amends, not for my job, but for who I am. Oh, the rawness of that moment. Jessica Miller, who'd once stayed silent out of fear, struggled just as fiercely. In her first session, she couldn't meet anyone's eyes, haunted by her own cowardice. But Second Chance pushed her to open up, sharing painful memories of being bullied, always feeling not enough and the guilt of staying quiet when colleagues were wronged. I chose safety over justice, she admitted, her voice trembling. I hurt people because I was scared. Through simulations, she faced power head-on, choosing between self-preservation and truth. Her instinct to stay quiet was dismantled, every action challenged and examined by peers and those she'd harmed. Jessica's transformation was slow but real, her once shaky voice growing steady as she vowed to speak up, even if it meant standing alone. Can you see the strength she found? Captain Reynolds, the grizzled pilot, showed the deepest change. For him, following procedure had been a shield against moral responsibility. But when asked to rewrite incident reports from the passengers' perspectives, especially Maya's, he broke down, tears falling freely. I thought I'd done my duty by not breaking rules, he said. I forgot aviation's heart, protecting every passenger equally. I want to teach this to the next generation. Oh, the weight of that realization. Second chance wasn't just talk. Maya brought in psychologists, social justice advocates, even high school students to share their stories. Participants served in underserved communities, partnered with civil rights groups, and faced mock court sessions. They wrote public apology letters, published on the Second Chance website, owning their mistakes and pledging change, open to community feedback. Nobody left without a reckoning. The results were staggering. After months, Trevor, Jessica, and Reynolds emerged transformed. Not defensive, but people who truly grasped equality's value and the courage to admit fault. Trevor didn't return to aviation. Instead, he led youth mentorship programs, teaching unconscious bias workshops in Chicago schools, using his story as a warning. If you stay silent, you're part of the problem. He blogged, gave interviews, and spoke at conferences, not for redemption, but to challenge others. He even apologized to colleagues he'd belittled, helping them find jobs. Jessica rejoined customer service at a local airport, advocating for special needs travelers and calling out bias, even at personal cost. She spoke at industry panels, urging new flight attendants, speak up, even if it costs you everything. One voice is a candle. Many banish the dark. Oh, the fire in her words. Reynolds, too, found new purpose. Shunned by airlines, he became an instructor for aviation safety and equity programs, teaching young pilots fairness and empathy alongside flight skills. He partnered with human rights groups, warning airlines against his mistakes. His lectures ended with Maya's mantra, "In the sky, no one is small. Justice comes from the heart." Their rebirth wasn't quick. It was forged in pain and effort under the world's gaze. They became proof of a culture that forgives and grows, where personal transformation is the ultimate honor. When Maya watched them leave the classroom, she knew every second chance could change a life and inspire a community to forgive, correct course, and leave no one behind. Can you feel the hope? Second Chance wasn't just a program. It was a deep dive into egos, regrets, and the burning desire to change. Trevor, once cold authority incarnate, emerged unrecognizable. Raised in a Chicago suburb where outsiders were shunned, he'd thought himself free of prejudice, just following tradition. But that video of himself mocking Maya, it shattered him. He realized the most dangerous bias hides in those who think they're normal. His work with youth became his redemption, his story a cautionary tale. Jessica shed her fear, learning the line between kindness and complicity. Her advocacy for passengers and victims of violence became her new purpose, her voice a beacon. Reynolds, the battle-hardened pilot, saw his biases mirrored in young recruits and vowed to break the cycle. His legacy, now one of empathy, not just flight hours. Oh, what a transformation. Since Skylux's rebirth, the American skies have never shone brighter under its logo. This wasn't about profits or VIPs returning. It was about a new reputation for ethics and trust. Skylux didn't just dream of change. It faced its failures head-on, uprooting bias from the core. Customer satisfaction soared across every demographic, race, age, gender, background. Surveys ranked Skylux among the top 5 U.S. companies for diversity, drawing investors not just for money, but for its story of redemption. The media storm didn't fade. It grew, stripping away the masks of gatekeepers. Trevor's face, once proud, became a meme, the gatekeeper of discrimination. His applications were rejected, his apologies ignored. Jessica, once a VIP darling, was shunned as complicity's poster child, her silence dissected online. Reynolds, a pilot legend, was unemployable, his reputation gone. Karen? Airline Karen was global, her law firm contracts canceled, her name erased from high society. Her past bribes? Exposed and powerless. Can you imagine the reckoning? Journalists uncovered Karen's trail of cash-fueled fixes, her status no match for digital truth. The scandal wasn't just Skylux's. It indicted a generation of enablers. Equality advocates called it a warning. Privilege thrives on silence. Maya's triumph wasn't their downfall, but the new culture she built, where justice drowns out excuses. Second Chance ensured even the guilty could change. Proving growth is the ultimate victory. Skylux's skies now soar on justice and equality. Not slogans, but reality. Maya's legacy? A world where every seat is earned and every voice matters. Oh, what a revolution! Oh, can you feel the hope soaring through the skies? Skylux Airlines has transformed into a beacon of change, rolling out bold programs for training, mentoring, and uplifting minority communities, restoring dignity to those once shoved aside in the service industry. No longer a symbol of snooty privilege, Skylux now waves the flag of accountable fairness, a triumph so bright even their rivals can't help but nod in respect. Can you believe the turnaround? At the heart of this revolution stands Maya Richardson, the youngest Black CEO commanding awe in finance and tech, a living testament to compassion and courage. Media outlets, universities, and civic groups clamor to hear her speak, hanging on every word as she recounts how she faced injustice head-on, not with vengeance, but with a radical offer of second chances for wrongdoers to atone, grow, and give back. Oh, what a legacy! Maya's example is pure fire, inspiring a new wave of executives not with harsh ultimatums or a warrior's swagger, but with an unshakable belief that people outweigh power and progress trumps punishment. Human rights groups and top journals have crowned her one of the world's most influential women in social innovation and ethical business. But let's be real. The greatest win isn't Skylux's revival. It's soaring stock price or any shiny award. It's the earthquake in public consciousness about justice, bias, and redemption. Across every forum, the saga of Skylux and its reformed figures, Trevor, Jessica, Reynolds, and Karen, shines as proof that justice isn't just about punishment or ending wrongs. It's an open invitation to grow, heal, and start anew. Who hasn't made a mistake? Only a society brave enough to face its flaws, fix them, forgive, and pour heart into every person's growth can claim true strength and grace. That's Maya's gift to the future. Justice isn't a scoreboard of winners versus losers. It's a bridge we cross together, leaving no one behind under this bright new sky. Every Skylux flight is more than a trip from one city to another. It's a journey of hope, dignity, and faith in a future where justice lives not just in laws, but in every beating heart. This story may be wrapping up, but its message? It's eternal. True justice lifts everyone, turns mistakes into growth, and ignites a society that loves, forgives, and chases its highest dreams. Only by confronting our hidden biases can we truly change. Isn't that inspiring? If this journey moved you, hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next epic adventure. Thank you for soaring with us. Oh, I'm absolutely inspired by Maya Richardson's fierce stand against injustice. Her story isn't just about a seat on a plane. It's a blazing call to dismantle the toxic privilege that festers in our society. I'm fed up with systems that let wealth or status silence fairness. And Maya's courage to confront that head-on without malice, sets my heart on fire. Her second chance program? Pure genius. It's not about punishing people like Trevor, Jessica, or Karen. It's about believing they can grow, that redemption is possible. That's the kind of compassion we need more of, not the finger-pointing that tears us apart. I'm all in for a lifestyle that prioritizes accountability and empathy over power. Maya's legacy screams that we can't just coast through life ignoring bias, whether it's in a boardroom or a coffee shop. We got to call it out, even when it's uncomfortable. Socially, I'm done with the idea that justice means winners and losers. Like Maya showed, it's a bridge we build together, where everyone gets a shot to rise. I'm passionate about living in a world where we face our flaws, forgive, and lift each other up. Skylux's transformation proves it's possible. Businesses can change, people can change, and that gives me hope. Let's embrace this vibe, confront injustice, offer second chances, and chase a future where dignity isn't a luxury, but a right for all. Who's with me?